O Lord of hosts, be with us, for we have none other help in times of adversity but Thee. O Lord of hosts, have mercy on us.
Welcome back, everyone. This is David Patrick Carey with Church of the Eternal Logos, and today I want to speak to you guys, or rather read to you guys, a beautiful prayer by St. John Chrysostom titled, A Prayer of Our Father Among the Saints. And this prayer can be found in the Orthodox prayer book. And so I actually want to say a few things about this. You guys have probably seen this book sitting right here in previous videos. However, before I discuss the prayer book and who John Chrysostom is before reading, I want to give a special thanks and shout out to Brother Constantine, a fellow parishioner of the church I attend, for the new intro music that I'm sure you guys just heard. He watched a previous video and suggested that I change the intro music from the Gregorian chant, which is obviously Catholic, to the Orthodox Valam Brotherhood chant of the Lord of Hosts, which is what I cut just a section of. It's actually like a 6.5 minute chant, and I just cut a tidbit of it, but I thought it was perfect. One, it's a beautiful Orthodox chant, but the Lord of Hosts chant is calling on the Lord of Hosts, the Logos, Jesus Christ, and the heavenly armies for aid and battle against his adversaries, and to ask for mercy from the Logos, from God. So, given that we're in a spiritual war, given that that's been mentioned on this channel, and given that that's tangential to a lot of the topics that we discuss, I thought that would be perfect and apropos for this channel. And just want to thank him for sharing that and giving me the suggestion. And I'm curious what you guys think. Let me know. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? I like it, and I think that we're going to keep it that way for a while moving forward. And so whether you like it or don't like it, let me know in the comment section. I'm curious, but I personally like it quite a bit. So thank you, Constantine. Appreciate that. Now, once that has been said, I do recommend anybody who's interested in getting the Orthodox prayer book. Now, if you are Orthodox, you definitely should grab one. It's a great resource. But if you're Protestant or Catholic, I also recommend getting it. There's always stuff in here, just like the prayer that I'm reading to you guys today by St. John Chrysostom. Chrysostom's a prayer in the Catholic tradition as well, so this prayer would be applicable to you and could be used by you as well. But this book, for those of you curious, has prayers, morning prayers, prayers during the day, prayers before sleep, prayers for Vespers, prayers for Pascha, supplicatory canon to our Lord Jesus Christ, Holy Theotokos, canon to our guardian angel, how to pray in church, and so on. So there is tons and tons of prayers in here, and I love flipping through. I always find new stuff and give me new insights. And the other night I was just reading, flipping through here, and I went to the very back and found, A Prayer of Our Father Among the Saints by John Chrysostom. And I read this, and I found it really touching and moving and beautiful. And so I knew that I wanted to share with you guys, and that's what I want to do today. And I don't want to make this video very long at all. This prayer is actually only 3 pages, so we'll get through it real quickly. But for those of you who may not be as familiar with who St. John Chrysostom is, I just want to give a brief rundown. This is just touching the surface here, but because I assume the majority of you guys are well aware of who he is, but there are some watching who aren't as familiar. So, who is St. John Chrysostom? Well, St. Chrysostom was born in 349 in Antioch, and he died in 407. Now, he is a beloved saint of the church, and Chrysostom is not actually his surname. That's not his real last name. And I hope I have the Greek right here. And his real, or the way that it is in the Greek, Chrysostomos, it means golden-mouthed. And he got this name because of his incredible eloquence and his articulation of beautiful homilies and prayers. And he's noted, that's why he's given golden mouth, his incredible rhetorical skills And he's noted for his preaching, his public speaking, his denunciation of authority, abuse of authority, whether that be governmental or ecclesiastical within the church. He's known for his divine liturgies. If you go to an Orthodox church, I'm sure the divine liturgy, or very often, very frequently, divine liturgy is actually written by St. John Chrysostom. His ascetic sensibilities, and this will connect with his banishment after being Archbishop of Constantinople, I just want to briefly mention before diving into the prayer. And his prolific writings, another thing he's noted for. The only other person during his life, or during that time period, to have been more prolific than St. John Chrysostom was St. Augustine. So, John Chrysostom, we're not sure whether his mother was Christian or pagan. What we do know is that his father died while John was a very young boy. And his mother ended up having him baptized, even though years later he would be educated by pagans. And it was actually here where he recognized his rhetorical skills. And in some of my reading, I saw that one of his pagan instructors actually lamented that they lost John to the Christians. And this was such a sad occurrence because they had so much hope in John. But we're thankful, obviously, that we did gain him. So in 381, again, he was born in 349. In 381, he becomes a deacon of the church. In 386, so 5 years later, he actually becomes a priest. And it is at this point when he plays a pivotal role in the sort of unification or bringing into communion the sees of Antioch, Alexandria, and Rome. And so this was quite a big deal. They had been separate and not in communion for about 70 years. And it was St. John Chrysostom that brought them all back into communion. Now in 397, he was appointed Archbishop of Constantinople. This was a big deal because St. John was beloved by the average folk, by the city people, not so much by the wealthy, not so much by even fellow clergymen who maybe had a leanings towards extravagance, luxury, and stuff like this, which he certainly was not. As I mentioned, he's noted for his ascetic sensibilities. But he was beloved by the people. So to get him out of Antioch, they were afraid there was going to be a riot, that there was going to be an uproar within the city. Once they found out that their beloved John Chrysostom was actually going to be moving, he was moving to Constantinople. So they actually had to escort him secretly out of the city at night to Constantinople, and then becomes archbishop. And actually here his life gets a little bit more tumultuous. He was known for refusing to host, like I mentioned, extravagant, luxurious dinner parties, dinner gatherings, which was common specifically within Constantinople. Again, this is the capital of the Byzantine Empire, and this is the new Rome, right? So he refused to host these parties, kind of infuriating actually other clergymen as well as the wealthy parishioners of the city. So the wealthy elite, along with maybe some of the royals, as will be mentioned with the wife of the emperor. But anyways, at one point, so there was a controversy at one point with Theophilus, the patriarch of Alexandria, who, if I remember right, there was 3 or 4 men, I think it was 4 men, who were associated with sort of Origenist theology, right? Origen is considered a heretic, so Origen in his philosophy is not Orthodox theology. It has Neoplatonic elements to it, and these 3 or 4 men were accused by Theophilus as having this worldview. They were casted out, and they were warmly accepted by St. John Chrysostom. Now, that does not mean he agreed with their theology or anything like that, but he welcomed them into the church as members. And by doing this, Theophilus of Alexandria actually claimed that he was an Origenist. And already the wife of the emperor, Aelia Eudoxia, she already had a negative disposition towards St. John Chrysostom, and they actually held their own synod, and they condemned John as an Origenist. Now, what's really interesting is once this occurred, that night there was a major earthquake in the city, and then the wife of the emperor, Elia Eudoxia, actually thought this was a sign from God, right? And so they actually reversed their decision. They were going to kick John out of the church, and then they reversed their decision because of the uproar of the city. In fact, people were threatening to set the holy palace on fire and burn it down. So they changed their decision. But not soon afterwards, Elia Eudoxia, there was actually a statue of her erected near St. John's Church, near his cathedral, and he condemned this as paganism and had very, very harsh words for the empress, or the wife of the emperor, and eventually she got angry again, and he was banished. He was actually kicked out of Constantinople and resided the rest of his life basically in the Caucasus Mountains of Armenia. So he calls on, matter of fact, the Pope at this time. Again, this isn't the same. This isn't papal or papal infallibility or anything like that. He's calling on multiple bishops in Italy. He's calling on the Pope of Rome to come to his defense, and they do. Again, remember that Chrysostom back in 386 or just after there was important in bringing into communion Antioch, Alexandria, and Rome. So they actually do come to his defense, but it's to no avail. And so he ends up dying, though there are a lot of letters he sends back and forth to his congregation and to his followers back in Constantinople. So, and you can actually purchase those those letters. But he is noted for his homily, so he has tons and tons of homily. This is what he's most famous for, is, his public speaking, which obviously we don't have, but his writing. We have his homilies on the Gospel of John, the Gospel of Matthew, Psalms, Luke, all these things. So he has these great homilies on different parts of the Bible. So if you're interested, I highly recommend getting into those. But a couple of his homilies that I wanted to point out, which are used to sort of deride St. John Chrysostom, is his writing against the Judaizing of Christianity. So he has some strong words for Jews and their killing of the Logos of Christ, their opposition to Christianity, and how Christians are being influenced by Jews and start beginning to Judaize Christianity. Of course, this has been used to call him an anti-Semite in recent times. So I thought this would be something that some of you guys might be interested in looking into, as well as his homilies against homosexuality. He considered homosexuality more of a egregious sin than murder because he felt being a homosexual was actually in more of an opposition or more of an abomination to nature than murder is, and that murder is actually closer to the fallen order of the world than homosexuality. So he considered it a grave sin and said only the insane would do this, which has then led people to call him homophobic and all this stuff. So some of that stuff you might be interested in. Just wanted to throw that out there given the current climate we are living in, and to find maybe some bright light in St. Chrysostom. So that's all I wanted to say. That's all I wanted to say about him. Now I just want to read his beautiful, beautiful prayer. Sorry about that. A little bit of technical difficulties. We are continuing right where we left off with the reading of St. John Chrysostom's prayer, the prayer of our Father among the saints. And it reads, O Lord, my God, I know that I am not worthy nor sufficient that thou shouldest enter beneath the roof of the temple of my soul, for all is empty and fallen, and thou hast not in me a place worthy to lay thy head. But as from on high thou didst humble thyself for our sake, do thou now also lower thyself to my lowliness? And as thou didst consent to lie in a cave and in a manger of dumb beasts, so consent also to lie in the manger of my irrational soul, and enter into my defiled body. And as thou didst not refuse to enter and to dine with the sinners in the house of Simon the leper, so deign also to enter into the house of my lowly soul, leprous and sinful. And as thou didst not reject the harlot and sinner like me, when she came and touched thee, so be compassionate also with me, a sinner, as I approach to touch thee. And as thou didst feel no loathing for the defiled and unclean lips of her that kissed thee, do thou also not loathe my defiled lips, nor my abominable and impure mouth, and my polluted and unclean tongue? But let the fiery coal of thy most holy body and thy precious blood be unto me for sanctification and enlightenment, and for health, for my lowly soul and body, unto the lightening of the burden of my many sins, for preservation from every act of the devil, from the expulsion and prohibition of my evil and wicked habits, unto the mortification of the passions, unto the keeping of thy commandments, unto the application of thy divine grace, unto the acquiring of thy kingdom. For not with disdain do I approach thee, O Christ God, but as one trusting in thine ineffable goodness, and that I may not by much abstaining from thy communion become the prey of the spiritual wolf. Wherefore do I entreat thee? For thou art the Holy One, O Master. Sanctify my soul and body, my mind and heart, my belly and inward parts, and renew me entirely, and implant thy fear in my members, and make thy sanctification inalienable from me, and be unto me a helper and defender, guiding my life in peace, vouchsafing me also to stand at thy right hand. With thy saints, through the intercessions and supplications of thy most pure mother, of thine immaterial ministers and immaculate host, and of all the saints who from the ages have been pleasing unto thee. Amen. All right, that is the prayer. As I said, I thought that was beautiful and touching, and I have more prayers that I'll share with you guys in later videos. But let me know what you guys think. Did you enjoy that? Let me know your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Thank you guys, as always, for all the love and support. And until next time, as always, God bless.